Uh-oh, got a package from Guitar Center Management. And this one's confidential. They need it returned right away. They are the sponsor of tonight's episode. Let's check out their new model, the Studio Dark. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Guitar Center's been doing these Dark Series guitars for a while, so I was kind of familiar when they approached me with this to know what to expect. But just in case you haven't seen any of these before, some previous models that you might check out include the Dark Knight, as well as the Blood Moon Les Paul, as well as the SG Dark Standard, as well as previous Dark Les Paul Studios. And then don't forget about the Raven Les Paul and SG series. I've got videos on all those, and in fact, it's probably because of your guys' enthusiasm of watching those that Guitar Center is probably like, hey, maybe we should start working with this guy. Of which I'm very thankful, because I've always been a fan of Guitar Center's exclusive models. So this time, as usual, we get the blacked out inlays. Sometimes it looks like they're not there at all. Sometimes it does. It just depends how you hit it in the light. However, we still have black binding on this model, so you still have all these nice white dot inlays. And if those aren't big enough for you, you can always use like some nail polish or something. But that's a pretty sleek look, especially if you're somebody that just always wanted a unmarkered fretboard, but you still want a little something on there. But then they've also blacked out our hardware. That looks like black chrome to me. So some angles it's really dark, other ones it shines up a little bit. But primarily it will be dark, and then they're offering two different finishes at launch here. We've got the one we're documenting today, Olive Drab Green, as well as just straight up jet black ebony if that's more your style, the complete blackout look. These are both Guitar Center exclusive guitars, so you can only get it at Guitar Center or one of their sister companies like Musician's Friend or Woodwind and Brass. But new this time to the Dark series is they were utilizing Richlight fretboards, but now that ebony has been returned to the studios, it looks like Gibson gave them the green light to do that. But these are being listed at $17.99 brand new. So that puts it in the same category as one of the Flame Top Studios that we also did a review on, as well as the Modern Studio. But I would say it's more so fair to compare it to the actual Modern Studio, which if you don't remember is this. It's the one that has the heel cut on the back, but they have a satin finish, but with a mother of pearl logo. They also feature the ebony fretboard with the black binding. They also have the same black chrome hardware. So I'd say your major trade-offs here are, do you actually need that back heel cut, or do you prefer a more traditional style? That's what this offers, as well as a full gloss finish. I was really hoping these were going to have a Gibson mother of pearl logo, but it looks like they're going for a white silk screen, so that's actually kind of unique in and of itself. It works a little bit better with the blackout theme rather than having yellow. And then check it, your nut is also a black material, and you have a blank truss rod cover stock from the factory. Well, let's see, any fancy electronics? Yep, we've got our coil taps. However, no additional direct-to-bridge or out-of-phase. So my honest, true impressions on this, I would personally probably still go for the Studio Figured. All things being the same, I love having that natural maple cap exposed on there and a little bit more tradition. However, I can also see how this has its own appeal to the guys who like that whole blacked out vibe. Because I will say, that neck and fretboard looks awesome. However, I don't think plopping that over here on that particular finish would still look good. I just really wish that they could have got away with like binding the body also black, because then this would be perfect. But at that point, it's basically a Les Paul standard. And who knows, maybe we'll see some new standard darks in the future. But I'm liking what I see on the neck and headstock. But as is usual on a Les Paul Studio, besides just the guitar, you also get a soft shell case, as Gibson calls it. It's a mix between a gig bag and a case. They're made under the TKL brand in China. They've got a pretty nice neck block in here that also has a Velcro strap to lock it into place. It gives you a little bit of headstock clearance. And it's a one size fits all. You can get SGs in here too if you want to not have something size specific if you're taking it out to a gig. And on the outside, I think my favorite thing about these is how large of a compartment you get in here. You can fit a whole bunch of stuff, but if you want my full review of these Gibson soft cases, you can check out that episode right here. And as far as included case candy, you get a free poker chip if you want to install it there. I'm going to. You also get an Allen wrench that's intended to be used alongside your bridge to help set your action. You get a basic truss rod tool with a polishing rag, a cloth strap, Gibson app indentation, as well as instrument safety manual. Maybe I haven't been paying attention, but I don't remember seeing that before. Let's just say you're going to have to get your reading glasses out. It's got so many different languages on it. It was hard enough to find the English one, but if you'd like to pause to read, you can. But it's basically just saying, don't be a Dumbo, and here's how to make your guitar the best it can be. But to learn more about this one, let's go ahead and throw it over on the workbench to take a look at its parts and specs before we get to a playing sample. Well, tearing this one apart, I actually found a few things that I didn't know previously. I thought this was going to have the same burst bucker pickups as the other ones, but no, they actually changed that up too. Got a 490R in the neck, and what normally goes with that? The 498T in the bridge. That's great. Hey, Trogly from the future here. After talking with Guitar Center, it looks like I got a mistake. It's supposed to have the regular burst bucker pickups like the previous studio figure we reviewed. So if you want to check out the tones, maybe look at that episode again. But that's okay though, because that adds a little bit of spice to tonight's episode if you were curious what the 498T set would sound like in a studio with the quick connect system. But that bridge pickup is hot at 13.84k ohms, neck position is 776, and the middle just for fun, 496. But don't forget, we also have our coiled taps over here. Now in theory, you should get about half or however many windings that they're taking out of the circuit. However, I actually did have a viewer fill me in. I'm going to make a short about that on my second channel if you want to learn more. Once I have all the right things anyway. But if you've never had a coil tap guitar before, just think full humbucker mode, single coil-esque, and you're good to go. But here we can see the natural mahogany. It's a short neck tenon. We can also see that we still have a maple top. It's just covered over in the green hue. Then we have our usual Les Paul Studio markings. They're just a little hard to read on this one. But here's another area where we can clearly see that maple top joining onto our mahogany body. This still features the ultra modern weight relief as well as the V cut with the other chambers. However, you might have noticed I got that poker chip on. This one is different than the studio figured. It actually has the skirted nut on it, so I didn't have to do anything too crazy to get that one on, even though I was fully prepared to do so. I think it comes down to maybe Gibson didn't have that other style one for the black chrome hardware, and they did here. So if anything, I view that as a plus. I think this finish pulls it off so much better with the poker chip. But here's a close look at our bridge. It's just the API branded one on the back, lightweight and traditionally mounted into the body with a full weight tailpiece though, also by the same company. And the knobs are our tried and true black speed style, neck volume, neck tone, bridge volume, bridge tone. And then we've got a single ply pick guard that looks like this on the back side. You've got that little felt washer, and even the pick guard bracket is black chrome. And if you wanted to remove it, here's what it would look like. I feel you need some more black on this one to match everything else that you've got going on here, but your own tastes might differ. It's an option for someone. But if you're caught between a studio and a standard, just remember a studio is slightly thinner. Most standards are about 2 inches in this area, so you can see just a little slimmer, despite being constructed the same way with a carved maple top and a mahogany back. But moving on from here, we've got our ebony fretboard with mahogany neck. This lighting situation helps you see the dark inlays that Guitar Center likes to use. It's a love it or leave it type thing. I think they're kind of cool in a limited edition sort of sense. But it's cool to see the return of ebony. Nothing against rich light. In fact, I was really hoping I was going to open this and find out, oh, it actually is still rich light, but I could definitely see why Guitar Center didn't do it. This is so strange to actually feel ebony again. It's got some wood grain to it. I'm so used to rich light with this styling where it's smooth. But if you look closely, you do have black fret nibs too. That's fun. But our nut measure is 1.72 inches, increasing to 2.09 at the 12th. About a 0.84 first fret neck depth, increasing to 0.93 by the 12th. I would not call it a huge neck. However, it does feel just a little bit chunkier than some of the other studios. So if you've been waiting for a 50s neck studio, I don't think this is it, but it does feel a little bit more rounded, but I would more so categorize this as a 60s. Here's that profile captured on our contour gauge. Certainly C-shaped, and a little bit more on the slimmer side. But I did want to bring this up because I'm sure people are going to make comments about it. Hey, the lacquer's coming off of my nut. Gibson tends to have that problem with this nut material. The lacquer doesn't like to stick to it. If you do not like that, and you're scared it's going to chip or flake away, which most times no, but sometimes on these, yes. But you can take a fresh razor blade and be very careful that you get just on the edge of the nut, and you can score it. And it's just going to come right off. But be careful to not go too deep onto your finish. You want to get just at the edge of the nut. And then it should just come right off. But again, be careful, make sure you score because things can go very wrong. I had to do this once before on a Dave Mustaine custom shop. Now whether or not you think that looks better, I'll leave that up to you, but those are your options. What I'm trying to say is if one looks all white and delaminated like that, and you can get it at a discount, don't be scared because that's all you gotta do. Personally, I'd suggest just leaving it alone though, unless you're having issues. Now, moving on to the face of our headstock. I thought this was cool being able to see the mahogany wood grain of the neck right here in our truss rod cavity. It works surprisingly good with the green and black finish. I wish we could have incorporated some more natural finish into this somehow. Although I'm not quite sure if a drabby top and a natural back would match. But even though I was initially disappointed to see the decals, now that I know it's a different color than usual, I've kind of warmed up to it a bit. Reminds me a lot of that Raven series. It's just kind of blended a whole bunch of them together here. But I do approve of the black chrome Grovers. Those look quite fantastic, I think. And here's a look at our truss rod cover. Just a straight up single ply ebony. Moving over to the backside, not too much to go over here. Regular heel, no comfort carves or anything like that. Just a nice drabby finish on the sides and back. Now, if you happen to be like, oh man, I wish this really did have the 490R 498T set. Remember what I said earlier, this is a quick connect system. It's really easy to buy a new set of Gibson pickups online or get them off of Reverb or something. The hardest part's just switching over your pickup rings. There's no soldering here, you just plug it in and then sell off whatever pickups came with your guitar. It might cost you $100 at the end of the day. Then we have a black plastic output jack plate with our black chrome large strap buttons in our usual locations, and they match those with the black back plates. And I just thought about something. There's a lot of guys recently that go, man, I wish studios didn't have binding again. I like the unbound look. I mean, with ebony and black binding, it kind of has that effect, but you still technically have the benefits of the fret nibs, making the fret ends not sharp. But now that I'm feeling the back of the neck a bit more, yeah, that is a little bit on the slimmer side. But here's what the back side of those Grover tuners look like. And we can see our serial number of this one dates it to the 37th day of 2025. Initial batch production number 232. Made in USA. But all said and done, not too bad of a weight. 8 pounds, 8.3 ounces. Let's go ahead, plug it in, and hear how the new Studio Dark sounds. That was a basic run through of our tones on the clean channel with our coil tapping as well as the regular full-on humbuckers. I'd say the neck sounds really good, but I will say right out of the box, it was way too close to the string, so I lowered that down, and that instantly cleared it up, because at first it was really muddy, and I couldn't even play this. Without it going fart, 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 so keep that in mind. They can also get that thinner. Or stick to full mode. Got a really throaty, almost P90-like sound. It's not going to be for everybody, but it might work in certain situations. I like that. Wasn't a big fan of the coil tapping on the previous Burstbucker Pro models, but the 498T, it's got its own certain quirky charm to it. Let's see how that holds up with some dirt.
So there we go, the new Les Paul Studio Dark in the Olive Drab finish, a Guitar Center exclusive. What are my final thoughts on this one? It took a little bit to get warmed up to it, but the more and more I was playing, I was getting inspired by this color scheme to go maybe a little bit darker. So I actually did have quite a good time playing this one. As you can tell during the playing demo that my pick guard started to turn white because my pick was just flaking away. I was strumming so hard. I'm still not going to say I'm a huge fan of Gibson's taps. I definitely prefer the splits. However, on this particular one, I think the 498T, I would actually end up using that occasionally. Now the neck, not for me personally, but it's nice to have the option. And it's certainly a color scheme that you don't find on a Les Paul every day. However, I would love to see Guitar Center re-envision this as a standard 50s, done up exactly the same. Just do a standard 50s dark. However, do the version that has the mahogany top, and then maybe consider doing a P90 version as well. So it's basically like one of those cherry reds or TV yellows. Just make it kind of like a TV olive drab, but yet we still get the ebony fretboard with the blacked out inlays. I'd be pumped if we see that in the future, but you also have to remember I have expensive tastes. So getting it in studio format saves you about $1,000. But anyways, I hope you find this video helpful in aiding your decision whether one of these is right for you or not. Or hey, maybe you're just watching it for entertainment. It's fun to know all the new models that are coming out, especially the dealer exclusives that don't necessarily get all the marketing they deserve. So all right, troglodytes, that's all for tonight. Remember, don't forget to use those affiliate links if you're interested in one of these or anything else that Guitar Center sells. By clicking those, that lets Guitar Center know, hey, we should send Trogly more guitars to review. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care.